All right, this won't be too long. I'm gonna see if the audio works because I realized one of the audio issues actually is coming from something that, ironically enough, is meant to stop it from happening. Uh, which, by definition of being an issue, is kind of the exact polar opposite of the purpose of its continued screwing up and messing up. It's your good for yeah. I don't know about O'Donoghue. Maybe a close companion, a person I've known for quite some time. But I was sitting here a few days ago and I was thinking about this situation with the networks, because I don't really watch network TV that much. So one day I just decided to go and look at this stuff earlier this year, and I talk about a lot of stories that I don't think get much coverage. Like as I've said before, we're in 7 wars in Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Pakistan. All the and I can say the other two, but you get the general picture. We're in these different conflicts, in each case for several years, and they get almost no attention. And I thought it was really weird because you know all these soldiers die, and then the closest thing we can get from you is to just casually mention it once a year when you think that Trump or whoever the hell else is in the White House at some later date is going to, get out of there. But I was sitting here and I was watching the networks and I was saying, okay, well, even if they don't cover the wars, right? Maybe they covered the Flint, Michigan water crisis, something else, student loan debt. Nope. It might be more than seven, Marco, but it's at least seven. So whatever way you scale that or say it, I'm still accurate. Just saying. Is the audio working? Let's hear this. Is the audio working? Yep, it is. Great. So now as I can continue. And look, this won't be that long because I'm really not trying to I've sort of mellowed out when it comes to streams, like doing them on a regular basis where I speak about something for a short time or for a little bit, and then people, they show up occasionally and then disappear for the rest of the year. But I didn't get this. I went over and watched this stuff on my TV, and I was I've mentioned before I have a colleague on Twitter by the name of Jennifer who talks about the Yemen conflict, almost to a level where literally it's consumed all of her material. Like, imagine if all I did was talk about, I don't know, climate change, right? Just day after day after day, week after week. And, you would say, okay, that's someone who's serious about that topic, who, prioritize it over the other issues. But you get the idea that you can look at her content and her general public persona and say that's an issue that probably matters to her more than the other ones. And I remember she had explained in one of her comments that no, I'm not really. I don't think it's any more important than the rest of this stuff. As far as let's now completely ignore everything else. Like, remember, one of my complaints of Fox was that they've taken the issue of immigration, which, whatever way you feel about it, and turned it into this thing that you just hear about day after day, week after week, at the expense of cutting attention from every other topic. Again, I thought that was weird and strange and didn't make any sense. But I said to her in one of our conversations that I got it. I didn't care if you speak about this daily or if you don't talk about anything else. It doesn't matter. Because people aren't talking about it. You're filling a vacuum or a void. Marco says the only thing I've noticed on this news is 12 and nothing else till something else happens. Yeah, that's going to be the thing they talk about for the next couple of days and then move on from. You saw them move on from the Vegas shooting. You had over 50 people get murdered by this lone gunman, the deadliest type of that shooting in American history. And it gets national coverage for maybe 13 days. And then you hear about it once every couple of months when they give you an update on the case. So, it's not surprising that's this same story. Everybody's going, oh my God, so terrible. Give it a week or two, be completely forgotten. I was shocked when the Vegas one happened and saw its complete lack of coverage following the first few weeks. Because I said, wait a second, this broke records. This is historical by virtue of having the most casualties. Like, that's the whole reason we even talk about any of these shootings that, like we've said before, you have a daily mass shooting where over 3 people get killed by a lone gunman. And they don't make news anymore, not because they're not significant, not because they're not deadly, murderous, horrible, but because in the grand scheme of things, they're not that big of a deal by virtue of how often we have them and how much larger ones we can, just name off the top of our heads without even, just like going into the ones that are just single digits. So that's the principal reason for that. But look, I've tried to say before, one of the reasons for purposely avoiding stories about immigration or anything else that has to do with just like the topic of the day is because I feel like the networks cover that stuff to such an extent that I really don't care about. Like you saw with the Assange thing, I did a video about that, and I think another one as well. And the whole point of it was I looked on the news that day, that week, and that month, and barely saw anything from any of these networks. And I actually had a person who had complained about the coverage and said that I was doing this because I didn't want to take a side of an issue, even though, as I stated before, I've repeatedly expressed my position on multiple issues with no care or concern about whether it was popular or whatnot. Just because you already have everybody else can say what they want, but I can't. Man, I'm telling you, go on Twitter and you'll see like whatever amount of bias that you think I might have or you think these networks might have. You go on Twitter and it's all let out. That is a sewer system. I literally just 2 days ago had a congressman thumb up my comment where I said that Twitter is the sewer system of the internet, because it is. It literally is all of these people who like are so scared they can't even get in front of a camera and say something, going on there and typing just the strangest stuff in the world, as exemplified by the one stream I did about the person, the woman who had said that if a man doesn't read female authors, then he's probably a misogynist. And I was like, who the hell even reads anymore? Like, I guarantee you that if you went and asked 100 people to name 5 books they've read this year, they couldn't tell you, because most people don't read books anymore. And that's not me saying the medium is boring or like I'm going off of reality, and that's what I try to do here. I don't try to like acquiesce to the petulance of someone that wants to peddle an idea. Like, it's stupid to say if you only read this gender, because nobody even reads anymore. Hell, a lot of people don't even read the whole news article. Like, I'll sit there and I'll read about half of it on the video and just go, okay, well, here's my opinion on this and position and whatnot. We got 5 people in here, only 2 talking. Wow. So thank you, Marco and John, everybody else. Why don't you love me enough to leave a comment? No, it's all right. We don't need any more positions being espoused and whatnot. That's A-okay. I'm very satisfied with my 2 characters that are deciding to participate in the conversation and acquiescing to my wishes. I was sitting here and I was just thinking about this conflict and like the just like the difference between what people prioritize when it comes to like these different channels such as mine to talk about the news, and then like what the networks talk about. And I say, it's so nice to like really be on here and be able to talk about pretty much, I don't want to say whatever I want, but close to it, because you look at these networks, right? And I've said before, I don't respect them because by virtue of being networks, right? CNN, Fox, whatever, they have the ability to talk about whatever they want and face very little consequence. They'll sit here and they'll talk about Trump day after day because it generates ratings, and they'll ignore any of these different interventions for the sake of those ratings. And with myself, I don't care whether it gets 2 views or 200. It's I think the story is interesting enough to just talk about. I'll speak about it. And my issue with them again is the fact that they can do this by virtue of not having to worry about whether they get views, because somebody will tune into these networks inevitably since they're the top dogs, and they just choose to not speak about this stuff. So, to the person who said that, I have a, I guess an agenda. Like, yeah, I want to talk about stuff that I think is important that doesn't get enough attention. Like, again, the Yemen conflict will be referred to as a war. It's a genocide. You will not see the term genocide used in very many mainstream media places, if at all. Go watch any of these networks. You will not see them call a conflict that has killed 85,000 people through starving and bombing a genocide. And like, again, just to give you an idea of where things stand, people harp and cry and whine about 9/11, right? This terrible event, to where just by me saying that in a somewhat mocking tone, they're going to go, oh my God, you're not taking 9/11 seriously. Like, no, nobody said it wasn't a big deal, but you had over 2,000 people die in that conflict, and it caused all these changes and uproars, and people were getting their patriotic thing going on. Whereas with this Yemen conflict, you literally have that number. I don't even want to say quadrupled. It's like it's more than 10 times the number of people dying over there. But because they're not on that precious, sweet, wonderful U.S. soil, they don't matter. Which is why I still live in the Twilight Zone, because I still to this day can't believe that not only do you have people that don't want to talk about this stuff, but people that don't care because of where in particular it's happening. Like, I always thought people would objectively be able to say, you know what, I don't like the leadership of, let's say, like I'm in maybe, I'm looking at Britain, right? I'm in the US. Like, I don't like the leadership of Britain because I think Theresa May is, horrible. But, I at least don't want the people over there to get screwed by her tenure. And they can't even bring themselves to do that. I mean, I've had so many people ask me, why do you cover Yemen? Why do you talk about Yemen? Why is that something you always speak about? I said, because if I don't, who will? And then you get the claims of the arrogance or whatever. I'm like, no, it's true. If I don't talk about this, who else will? What? Some woman on Twitter? A couple of little different groups with a pinch-sized amount of followers and viewers? Not enough. So again, they have created this idea that you have to have, let's see, Marco says we pretend to care about safety in America, but not anywhere else. That's my point. As long as it's not happening to us, we'll let it slide. They have created a set of double standards. Look at what's happening in Venezuela. If some prick from the Middle East, Central America, wherever the hell, came and said, hey, screw the US election, I'm going to put, I don't know, Pelosi as the president and tell you that Trump is the interim president, everybody would be tearing their hair out. They'd be losing their minds and go, oh my God, this other country is trying to have a coup. But then when we do it to somewhere else, well, Maduro's a really bad guy, and if you don't want to tell another country who their leader is, you're definitely part of his regime. It's like, are you out of your mind? It's like, it's a coup. It's a literal coup. It's literally you going somewhere else going, screw the person that was elected as the leader. I'm going to tell you who it is. It's a coup. And you won't hear the word coup used on CNN or Fox or MSNBC or any of these other networks. Only on YouTube, where people aren't trying to bootlick and get coins from defense contractors and acquiesce to whatever they want, are you actually going to hear it be talked about in the way that it actually is, with a description that is accurate to the circumstance. Again, there's plenty of purposes to these websites. When you go on YouTube, you get to watch game footage. I told you about the one woman that has the channel where she does the prostitute voice. Well, you can come over here and enjoy. I said to myself, look, I bring it up not to shame people, but to say this is a site with a variety of uses. And if people want to come on here and talk about the news, then why not? I don't think you should then say, well, we must compare you between the cable networks. But if you want to make that comparison, we have them beat. Because we're not doing this with any financial incentive, or at least one that gives us a limitation on what can be expressed or stated. I don't get to come on here and do a stream for 2 hours about how stupid the Israeli government and then get a paycheck from from AIPAC saying, hey, don't do that video again and we'll give you some dollars. And because of that, it's unfettered, uncontrolled opposition to dumb things that are kept in place by powerful people. And they can say, oh, this channel only gets 10 views or 5 or 3 or 2 or 1 or some other number that they probably couldn't even count off if you gave them all day. But it's being stated by other people with larger platforms as well. You know why? Because if something is true, someone else will say it, and then some other people will say it, and then suddenly it becomes a kind of well-known thing. Like, it's well known that both American parties, despite claiming to be here to serve the U.S. citizens' best interests in their own individual ways and, freedom and blah, 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 are in the pockets of the Israeli government. And part of what they do is act stupid on purpose. You said something about Israel's government? You must be against Jews. So the Israeli government is now Jewish? So does that mean that Catholicism is the U.S. government? Like, you see how stupid that analogy is? But again, that's an objective rebuke of something that is so dumb that it can't. It's not even like organic stupidity, right? Like, something that someone actually thought of and went, oh, that's wrong, and found out. These are people who literally sat down in the room and said, hey, what way can we suppress free speech about the Israeli government? Oh, we'll smear everybody that says something we don't like as being anti-Semitic. Yeah. And they just convinced themselves that was the way to go. The media picks up and they like to call it. I told you, I had a character, an individual who I would consider of some level of intelligence, who watched Fox's coverage of Ilhan Omar's comments on Israel, on the Israeli government, and they later stated, oh, they're mad at her for what she said about those Jews. Didn't say anything about the Jews. But that's how powerful the smearing and the red scaring is about that term. Just like when you talk about Maduro's government being crappy, but not wanting to see it replaced by some rinky-dink U.S. prop up, they tell you, oh, well, you're part of the Maduro regime. How much is the president of Venezuela paying you? Nothing. But there go the conspiracy theories, because you can't have an opinion that is different from mine unless there's some financial thing going on. And then the screwed up part is the people who actually have that and are, being paid to lie to you and to trick you and to play these little games and do this smoke and mirrors routine, they go completely unnoticed in their corruption. Marco says, pay to spouse. What is this? Oh, this person sent me this thing. Pay to spouse a certain narrative and not their own opinion. Exactly. And it might even be their own opinion, but it's, again, they do this thing on purpose where when you run these news networks, you go out of your way to get one person who reflects the right and one person who reflects the false left, or otherwise what they believe a liberal should be. So, for example, if I was invited on one of these networks, I would talk about the wars, maybe climate change. I wouldn't sit up there whining about impeachment in an era when I know that the Senate has a majority of Republicans who aren't going to turn on Trump ever, who would take a cyanide tablet for him. And, I'm not one of the ones who's going to whine about that, because it's not a thing I care about. But, they'll bring them on to do that, because they've literally turned these networks into running on three things: Trump, immigration, and, the usual outrage stuff. Like, oh my God, this person said this, and I was so appalled that they expressed themselves in such a manner. It's like, man, look. The networks are always going to be that way. They're always going to have these weird censors. Like, you can portray characters being killed in children's cartoons, but then you can't say certain swear words on TV. Like that weird sort of duopoly where, like, they can't tell to what extent they want to be, of a certain variety. Like, I don't come on here and attempt to pretend like I'm trying to, be some news anchor person. I say, okay, this story bothers me, or this story is interesting, so discuss it and talk about it. Other than that, there's nothing else. And there's no need for it. I had a person who actually had made the comment that one of the tactics I use is supposedly to act the same way no matter what happens. I said that's not true, because when I had the boost in subscribers to 2,000, and found out that like the majority of them weren't even going to watch any of my stuff, I was bothered by that. And so one day I went around YouTube. I put on my heels and clicked them together, and got some bag and sprayed some perfume and tried to look dazzling, and went around looking at these channels, whether it's PewDiePie with 96 million subs, looked at his videos and saw that none of them were getting above 7 million. Well, wait a second. If he's got 96 million subscribers and he's not even getting 8 million views on average, I think there's a discrepancy here. And what was that discrepancy, you might be wondering? The overwhelming majority of people who sub to his channel don't watch his stuff. And so then, I walked over to another channel, 600,000 subs. I'm not going to say who he is, but you can probably guess who it is. I looked at his, and it's someone I like the videos of. I watch their stuff periodically. I'm not subscribed to him because I only want to be sub to people that I watch everything from, because I'm not a fake, subscriber. And before somebody goes, that sounds like that's directed at us. Like, no. If someone doesn't watch something the first day, whatever. The first week, whatever. 2 weeks later, whatever. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. You've had enough time to watch it. So let's clarify that before we get the confusion and word manipulation game going. Because I know people like to do that. They like to say, "Oh, this person's not grateful for what they have," yada yada yada. I'm saying, look, I appreciate people, showing this stuff interest, but the people who are showing this stuff interest with respect to actually viewing it are not the majority of the people who press that stupid little red button everybody gets on here and wants to freak out about. So what's the point of having subs if they don't watch the stuff? It was the same thing I asked the people who were sitting here bootlicking for one party. I said, look, this military budget got voted for by over 80 members of the Senate, a majority of Republicans and Democrats. What the hell is the difference between the two parties if they vote the exact same way? Hey, another example, one that everybody will get, the chick thing. Person told me, "Oh, you're generalizing." I said, well, look, if I am one guy out of 30 that a woman has been turned down by, let's pretend it was the reverse, right? Women are the ones having trouble getting a date. And unlike the other 29 guys, I draw, I write, I own a particular type of car. Maybe I get up earlier in the morning. I have these various differences, right? But if I still did to her the exact same thing the other 29 guys did, which was turn her down, after some like prolonged interaction never went anywhere. What do all those different characteristics have to do with me doing the same thing to this person as the other 29 people that I'm supposedly so different from? It's just like with the networks. I don't want news that tries to pretend like it doesn't have an agenda. Like, I would shut up about Fox and CNN. They just said, look, we have these donors, so we're not going to talk about these stories. We want to piss them off. Okay, fine, whatever. But no, they go, this is news that is accurate, and there's no smear campaign. We don't purposely not talk about any stories on purpose. No, it's all good here. Like, no. That's why I say to my TV every single time, I'm just staring at the TV going, come on, man. Why do you have to lie? Why do you have to not tell the truth? Why can't you just admit what you are, which is someone that, is bought on a respective number of issues? It's possible to be a half sellout. Rand is a good example of that. That's someone that is horrible on almost every single social issue, but absolutely positively right on every foreign issue. Like, he's not a defense contractor flunky, but he is for big pharma. What's another system that pays? Just, those different groups that are domestic to the U.S. So that's a person who has some good stuff, some very, 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 very bad stuff. Let's see. Marco says even the commercials in between are bought and paid for. Yeah. Man, I remember being on Fox one day. It was during that election cycle, and it was before any of the states had actually voted. and they had a Rubio ad on there that they just like, I think in the span of one day they played that thing like 9 or 10 times. Like, you're not going to tell me in a field of 16 people, the only two candidates I see any ads for on TV being Rubio and Bush, that those aren't the ones that the party wants me and everybody else to vote for. Like, come on, man. But look, they can't come out and say it, so that's why they get criticized. Again, people hate TYT. I'm not one of them. They have stuff I don't like, but they at least admit, hey, we're anti both parties, so we're not unbiased. They admit it, so I don't have a problem with that. Doesn't mean I agree with the stuff they say. So there's that. I don't know if Mark is still here, if he went to go and get something to eat. I was feeling so bad because Mark was one of my frequent stream attendees, and I thought he was robbed and deprived of a stream today, so I decided to turn the camera on and speak. Hey, that's like the start of those songs where they point to someone in the audience like, "This is for you." No, seriously, I really debated if I even wanted to do a stream today, but then I got I guess some motivation because I was just thinking about some stuff. But yeah, I think the channels are useful, and I expect people to tune out when it comes to important or serious stuff. That's why the networks play Trump crap every single day. But when I want to hear about Trump, I want to hear about his policies. I want to, and not immigration all day long. I want to hear about what he's doing on Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, North Korea, Iraq. What he's doing on climate change, on the banks. Not the same stupid stuff. Not the tweets. Not some comment he made offhand about some woman in another. Like, it doesn't matter. But they love their ratings. They have to feed you all this, and like they don't get that completely destroys your own argument against him in this upcoming election cycle, because when you don't talk about the issues and you turn it into a contest of personalities, which is exactly what they do when they whine about the tweets, you're giving him a hand up because you're saying, "Oh, you're being so substantiated in your rebukes of his tenure because there's nothing to complain about. Everything's great and pixie dust and all stuff is recovered and yay," even though it hasn't. But they do that to themselves. It's like if I was trying to make an argument, I was saying, "Hey guys, I really want to get with this woman, but she wouldn't let me touch her private part, and I should have been able to do that because she looked at me sideways, which means she was flirting with me." If I came on here and said that, I would be handing people the rope to say that I was entitled and I demanded stuff and whatever. And instead I just say, look, they can say no, but I have the right to say that they're dumb for saying it. Do you get the point that what you say does matter, but what they're saying is mattering to benefit him, the person they claim to not want to help? So I see people are, again, falling asleep, taking naps. I understand. I'm not sad or disappointed or mad or angry or disillusioned / upset. It's A-okay. But look, we'll do this not tomorrow because Tuesdays are usually a day where I just upload something due to the hectic schedule. Maybe Wednesday or Thursday. Might not even do any more this until definitely Saturday, of course, because that's when we get the big events. When I sit up in front of here and I start talking about some major story that's happened. Some discourse. Let me mute that. Actually, I'm gonna get off here soon, so it doesn't matter. But look, I hope you enjoyed. And again, when you want real news, go on these different YouTube channels, whether it's Jimmy Dore or somebody else, and when they start playing, because people go, "That's not a reliable source." if they put up a news article or a video of somebody saying something, you say otherwise. Again, real news in this day and age is on the internet, not on CNN or Fox or MSNBC or NBC or any of the other crap. Here. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.